You ever see your HOA president stuck headfirst in your hedge, flailing around like a wind-up Christmas ornament gone rogue, hedge trimmer still buzzing in her hand? Because I have. And let me tell you, nothing quite prepares you for the sight of Patricia Lunsford, queen of the clipboard crowd, terror of trash can placement, screaming with one leg hooked through my arborvitae hair full of leaves, yelling bloody murder while two cops try not to laugh. Yeah, that happened. And all I could do was lean on my little 2-foot picket fence, coffee in hand, and say, "Technically, officer, she assaulted the shrubbery first. You can't make this stuff up." See, by the time the cops showed up, Patricia had cut a 12-foot path through my 10-foot-tall hedge, convinced beyond reason that I'd found a loophole in the HOA rules so dangerous, so offensive, it threatened the very soul of Maplebrook Estates. "It's an illegal fence," she shrieked, still half suspended by the branches, and I swear the officer had to bite his lip to keep from snorting. "Ma'am, it's bushes," he told her real patient-like. But she wasn't having it. "It's a green menace," she cried. "He's hiding a fence behind plants." The cop just looked at me, then back at Patricia, and asked if I wanted to press charges. I took a slow sip, staring at the woman who'd fined me for unsightly trash cans. "Oh, officer, I want to do a lot more than that." Let me back up a sec. This all started because I value my privacy and the Maplebrook HOA. They value uniform beige misery. My name's Caleb Ward. I'm 38, structural engineer by trade, hobby woodworker, professional mind-my-own businesser. When I bought my house, the listing said quiet, low-traffic, family-friendly. It did not say ruled by a council of bored suburbanites with an iron fist and a binder full of bylaws. I figured, hey, peaceful neighborhood, decent lot. I can finally work from home without being watched. I had dreams of sitting on my back porch, coffee in hand, maybe enjoying the sound of birds instead of the neighbor's yappy Pomeranian making eye contact while it pooped on my lawn. So after a month of dog walkers staring directly into my living room every morning, I did what any sane person would do. I built a 6-foot privacy fence. Looked great. Straight as a string, stained just right, one of those fences you'd see in a catalog. That's when I met Patricia Lunsford, HOA president, full-time tyrant, part-time hurricane. She had that brisk power walk, hair the color of dried straw, voice like an air horn at a funeral. She showed up at my door the day after I finished, sniffed the air like she was testing for contraband, and said, "Mr. Ward, we need to talk about your structure. Not hello, not welcome, just straight to the verdict." She handed me a slip of paper, rules and regulations, highlighted like she'd been waiting for this moment her whole life. "No fence over 4 feet without written approval," she announced, eyes narrowed. "That's 2 feet of unauthorized verticality." I asked her, maybe a little too sarcastically, if unauthorized verticality was an official HOA term. Her lips disappeared. "You'll be receiving an official notice," she said, spinning away like she'd just scored the game-winning point. 3 days later, I got my first violation letter, fancy maple leaf watermark, and all immediate action required. Remove or reduce fence to 4 feet within 14 days or incur fines of $25 per day. Yeah, that's not the end of the world, but it sure felt like a slap. I double-checked the bylaws. Sure enough, no fence over 4 feet without written permission, even in the backyard. Previous owner had a dinky chain link thing. No exceptions, no grandfather clause. I sent Patty a polite email, asked if we could do retroactive approval since the fence was at the back, mostly hidden. Her response, sent at 3:07 a.m., like she was lying awake thinking about me, was a masterpiece. The height alone creates a sense of fortress hostility, inconsistent with Maplebrook's open, neighborly aesthetic. Also, your stained wood is not an approved neutral. Application denied. That's how the fines started. $25 a day, every day, with a cheerful reminder tacked on. And if you've never seen your privacy called a threat to property values in a newsletter, you're missing out. Patty took pictures from the sidewalk of my backyard and blasted them to the whole community, warning about non-compliant barriers with a little cartoon fence clip art just to drive the point home. She even suggested I try a 3-foot white picket fence with a low hedge, which is basically code for be visible at all times. But here's the thing, unlike Patty, I actually read the rules. All of them, line by line. And you know what? Not a single line about how tall a plant can get. Miles of ink about fences, fence color, fence width, nothing about shrubs. When the hearing came, a folding chair tribunal of folks who all looked like they'd never forgiven anyone for anything, Patty laid down the law. Fence must be reduced to 4 feet within 10 days. Non-negotiable. I looked around at the panel of beige cardigans and said, okay, I'll take it down. Patty looked a little let down. Guess she'd been itching for a lawsuit. But she had no idea I'm at my most dangerous when I'm compliant. I spent a weekend chopping my beautiful fence down to 2 feet, knee height, practically decorative. Painted it white just like the rule book. Sent a picture. No reply for 3 days. I could almost hear her gears grinding because a 2-foot fence blocks nothing. That Monday, a truck pulled up and 48 10-foot arbor vitae trees rolled off the flatbed, big, green, thick as anything. Privacy incarnate. I'd done my homework. City code didn't care about tree height. HOA documents, not a word. Had a landscaper plant them exactly 1 inch inside my property line, running right along my compliant little fence. When he finished, my yard looked like the witness protection program had set up shop in suburbia. Next day, I'm sipping coffee, admiring my living hedge, and here comes Patty, visor on jaw, working, breathing like she'd run the 400 meters. She didn't ring the bell, just stood there glaring at my hedge like she could stare it into submission. A few hours later, email from Patty. Your recent landscaping creates a visual barrier inconsistent with our community's open character. The hedge functions as a fence and violates the spirit of Section 7.2.3. Please reduce or remove within 10 days. I shot back, Patricia, Section 7.2.3 regulates fences, not shrubs. Happy to comply with any written rule about plant height that existed when I bought my home. She was not amused. Within a week, a landscaping violation showed up complete with made-up citations. Flyers got slipped into mailboxes warning of my hostile perimeter. Patty led little groups of concerned neighbors past my house, pointing at my hedge like it was a toxic waste spill. She even sent a guy from the landscaping committee. Didn't realize my security cameras caught him tiptoeing onto my property with a tape measure, mumbling under his breath as he poked the trunks. That's when I got serious. Called in a certified city arborist, Dana tough as nails, and my lawyer, Elliot Grayson, who could make a pit bull look like a golden retriever. Dana walked the line, checked my survey stakes, reviewed city code, and declared everything perfectly legal. Even put it in writing on city letterhead. Elliot combed through every page of the HOA docs and found nothing. But he did dig up Patty's emails to the board stuff like we can always send someone to trim those trees and drafts of new amendments trying to ban hedges over 4 feet. None of them passed. So when I got another violation letter, this time claiming I was required to cut my hedge, Elliot fired back legal style. Any attempt to enforce non-existent rules or trespass on my client's property will result in legal action. So what does Patty do? Calls an emergency HOA meeting. I went just to watch the fireworks. She had a PowerPoint. The hedge problem slides with red circles, dire warnings about community character. Someone in the back asked, is it actually against the rules? Another asked, where does it say that Patty tried to bluster something about the spirit of the law? Not how that works, but sure. 3 days later, she snapped. I caught her on camera marching down my side yard with a cordless hedge trimmer and 2 nervous board members in tow. She stormed past my tiny fence, started hacking away at my hedge, made it 12 feet in before a branch caught her ankle and dumped her face first into the foliage. The board members froze. One tried to help, the other just backed away like he'd never seen her before in his life. I walked outside, phone recording, and said, Patricia, you're on my property, cutting my hedge. You've got 3 seconds before I call the police. She yelled, I am the HOA. 6 minutes later, the police were there, reviewing the footage, reading the arborist's letter, eyeing the property lines. So the HOA president just decided to do unauthorized yard work with a power tool on your property, one asked. Yep, I said. Ma'am, that's trespassing and destruction of property, the officer told Patty, who still hadn't let go of the trimmer. When he asked if I wanted to press charges, I smiled. Let's start with a formal report. My lawyer will handle the rest. That's when it stopped being about shrubs and became a record. Elliot went after them with the fury of 1,000 fines: trespass, destruction of property, harassment, injunctive relief barring the HOA from touching my landscaping. Security footage arborist letter, all of Patty's emails tied up with a bow. Turns out unauthorized cutting of established trees can get you in trouble with the city, too. When we went to court, Patty looked small. Gone was the queen bee energy. She sat at the defense table in a thrift store, blazer, hand shaking. The HOA attorney tried the de facto fence argument. Elliot just asked, "Where is that in the covenants?" Dead silence. We played the video of Patty hacking the hedge. Elliot read her emails. If he wants to box himself in, we'll show him who runs this neighborhood, while Patty tried to claim she was joking. The judge was having none of it. In your capacity as HOA president, you authorized or personally engaged in trespass and property damage in direct contradiction to the association's governing documents, he said, slow and cold. This isn't just overreach. This is abuse of authority. Your client has exposed the association to liability. He barred the HOA from regulating landscaping height unless they actually passed a proper amendment, and even then it couldn't apply to me. They had to pay full replacement cost for the hedge calculated at mature tree value, not saplings. My attorney's fees. Damages for harassment. Patty personally responsible for a chunk of it. Total came to $78,000. Patty's share, $32,000. I watched the blood drain from her face as the judge read the number. She had to cash out her retirement account, take out a second mortgage, and sell her Lexus just to pay up. At the community vote 2 weeks later, she was removed as HOA president by a landslide. She sat in the back, tears streaming, as neighbor after neighbor explained why they were voting her out. So, is justice just about following the letter of the law, or is it about standing up when folks like Patty try to write new rules to suit themselves? Would you have done what I did, or would you have folded? Drop a comment. Tell me your thoughts, and if you've ever tangled with an HOA tyrant, I want to hear your story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who's ever planted a hedge just to mind their own business. Because sometimes the best fences really are made of trees.